Well, hello everyone. It's Diane, and I have my three domestic arts journals finished. So I'm going to show them. I believe they are all claimed. I'm just waiting to finalize with someone. So I will be making more before Christmas that will be listed in my shop. So I'm just going to show you what I've done here. We'll start with this one. Everybody seemed to like the one with the lion on the front. They're all made with Better Homes and Gardens craft books, and they are all the same size. So it's 7.5 inches wide by just over 10 inches tall. They're all tied with apron ties, which I have to iron, but I don't have room to set my iron up until I clean up my room. But I just took 2 apron straps and sewed them together and then tied the book. So you saw me, if you watched my process videos, you saw me decorating the covers, making the covers and decorating them. So here's the needlepoint book with this funky lion on the front and the wide rickrack and the pom-pom trim. I sewed it together with some buttons on the spine. And I left the back plain because that needlepoint image is just really pretty. Inside it's covered with coffee. Sorry. I'm almost done with my cold. Not coffee dyed paper, wallpaper. And I used my This Book Belongs To stamp and then the new stamp that says Creative Home Arts Club Life Member. I thought that was very appropriate for domestic arts journal. This is a piece of wallpaper, and it's a little pocket there. This is a vintage recipe card divider. It came in a box full of recipes at the flea market. There is a piece of vintage tablecloth up here, chenille up here from a bedspread, and vintage bead sack fabric here with a button. This is a paint chip. Oh no, it's not a paint chip. It's a card. It has a map about New York City, I believe, and some papers for writing on. Just a scrap of fabric here and a little bit of lace. There are 3 signatures in this book. This is vintage ledger paper. This is vintage wrapping paper with some sewing paper sewn to it, and it's stitched to coffee dyed paper. This is, right here, this is a doll pattern. It was pinned to some red gingham and cut out, but left that way. It still had the pins in it. So I took the pins out and just sewed it all together and sewed it on as a pocket, added a yo-yo. There's just a library catalog card in here and a little envelope that I stamped with one of my vintage postal stamps. And I put my Pretty Pink Cottage card in there. This piece of scrapbook paper, a page from a craft book. This is wallpaper, a piece from a craft book. I just punched holes in it and tied this piece of yarn on it. Scrapbook paper here, and this is just a piece of linen that was embroidered on. This is a piece of heavy felt that had this fan and some other things stamped on it, and I guess you were supposed to cut them out and make something with it, but I just used it as a little tuck spot there. And this is from a 1949 appointment book. Well, maybe I'll just fold it in half. And then this is a plant card with some paper, guest check, and I guess it's all guest check sewn to it with some fabric. This is from a log cabin pattern book. The whole book was full of different log cabin patterns, but they're very open. You can color them, you can write on them. I just thought they were fun. I added this piece of a vintage packaging from a pleat maker. And this is a page from a a book about quilters. It's a very cute book, and it's got these little ladies here working together. This is from a pattern for making stuffed bunnies. And I made a little pocket here, and this is from one of the craft books. There's wallpaper here with a tab made out of bias tape. And this is just a vintage card of embroidery floss or crewel embroidery thread. I don't know. Probably the crewel. Pattern tissue here and feed sack fabric. And some vintage hem lace here. And speaking of feed sack fabric, I'm going to leave a link to Fabric Thread Needle, Jennifer's shop on Etsy. She's offering a special deal on feed sack fabrics for my viewers only. 25 pieces of 6x6 inch feed sack fabrics. I don't remember the price, but it's 25 pieces, and she has 25 of those bundles. So I will leave the link, but she has my name on the listing, Diane's something. So I will leave the link to that. And I appreciate Jennifer putting together special deals for my viewers, and she likes it that we can collaborate on these things. And I'm glad that I get to use her feed sack fabrics in my journals because I love them. Here's a vintage pattern envelope, and I just sewed some stuff to the flap. This is just stitched to a little flap of the wallpaper. And inside are 2 of the plant cards with some journaling paper stitched on. It's from a craft book. There's a little library pocket with a paint. Oh. The thread is stuck on something. Let me figure this out. Oh. Okay, so there was a thread hanging from where I sewed that cloth on, and then the thread got taped to the back of the book. Okay, so there's a cute little kitten on this paint chip. And there's a vocabulary card glued to the top there. This is wrapping paper. Feed sack fabric pocket. I just stitched 2 pieces together to make a nice big pocket, and there's this little booklet made with a page from craft books and some lined paper. A little tiny card. These are not pockets or flaps, they're just sewn on to decorate the page. You still have room for writing. I think 4 pages here for writing, or 3 pages. There are so many things tucked into pockets and room for you to put more things, so there would be plenty of room for writing and gluing things down. This is an index page from a big atlas, and it's green, light green color. I just needed pages that were big for this big book. This is from a pattern book from the 1980s, and it's message paper to the glued to the back. This is a blanket binding package. This had a sticker on it that I couldn't get off, so I put my own sticker on it. It had a price sticker on it. This was a bundle of yarns that came with a embroidery kit, and I just lopped off a hunk of it as it was, and I liked it that way, so I put that through the hole there. This is wallpaper. This is a piece of foundation paper that you would iron that onto your fabric for quilting and then cut these pieces out. And then you could, I guess, peel or wash the backing off, whatever. And this is a piece of lace and a yo-yo. And a little envelope with a tag from a knitting book, I think. This is a label, a very vintage label from a package of stuff I got in a bunch of stuff at a flea market, and it's for labeling your jams and preserves. So that was for currant jelly or something. This is a little pleat that was made in a sewing class back in the 50s, I think. I bought a little box. It was a sewing teacher's supplies and notebook and stuff that she used in teaching sewing. This is a photo sleeve, a really nice sturdy one, and I put in a florist hang tag in there and a library catalog card. This is cut from the 80s pattern book. This is a pocket from a vintage apron. And I used a vintage apron pocket in each of these journals, and I loved doing that. This was a wide pocket, so it's folded over. You'll see a little piece of this pocket on the other side of this page. This is just a piece of fuzzy trim. And then I stitched these 3 papers together for writing. This is another page from the log cabin book, and this is a piece of wallpaper, and there's a little tag that I made, and this is the other side of the apron pocket. This is from a book on how to make these dolls, and this is a page from that sewing teacher's notebook, and this was a lesson on square corners, and here's an example. The glue I could just pull very, very lightly and the glue came undone, so I re-adhered it to that. So I thought that was a fun thing to include. Another paint chip with another library pocket. Here's some vintage fringe up there. I think it was vintage. 6x6 scrapbook paper and a yarn sample card. Piece of vintage braid and some playing cards, Norman Rockwell. There's another card over here, pattern tissue and wallpaper. Here's a vintage embroidery transfer, a piece of Aida cloth, and some more stickers for preserves. I didn't know you could even make preserves with watermelon. And here is a page from the Career and Ives calendar. I did a video on how I folded this to make it fit in here, and so there's lots of little pockets and tuck spots on it. This is the vintage feed sack fabric and vintage pom-pom. And these are curtains from the 1980s sewing book, and I made it into a booklet. There's a little tuck spot here. Some trim, a vintage applique, an envelope that Julie Mangold made for me, and a plant card. Here's a piece of scrapbook paper, a piece of the Aida cloth, and a little playing card. This is stitched to the scrapbook paper to form a pocket. It's from that quilting book. This is a coffee-dyed index card with some girls cut from the 1969 pattern book and a recipe card. This is also from the 1969 pattern book. This is a piece of fabric that was part of a fabric sample thing. I had to take it apart, and I used this fabric just to make a pocket here. This is cut from an old sewing book and one of the craft books. This is one of my giant tags that I carry in my shop, and there's just a little sample of embroidery, machine embroidery, it says. Map page from that big atlas. More wallpaper. There's a pocket here with a page from a craft book. And inside the pocket is this large envelope that I stitched tickets and fabric and stuff to, and there's just a card in there that you can write on or put a picture on. Oh, there's something else in this pocket too, and it's from a book about stitching, embroidery stitches. So it gets tucked down in there. Don't forget it's in there. I think I forgot it was in there, and that's why I added the envelope. There's 2 squares of fabric that I stitched there. That's wallpaper. Here's the other side of that fabric sample. There's the card part. So this is a little tuck spot here, and then, because I folded this over so you could see the writing there. And then there's another envelope here with a recipe card, 2 recipe cards. This is a ticket. It's not a real ticket, it's note paper, but it was made to look like a ticket from Disney World, and my daughter actually bought that at Disney World. A vintage Rolodex card and vintage embroidery transfer with the little X's that I embroidered on there. I just did 4 of them. And this is cut from scrapbook paper, and I just sewed it on there. This is a vintage postal label. And this is from a vintage quilt. You can see the quilt is falling apart. And I left it just the way it is and just sewed it on as a pocket and put this little pleated trim on there and put this card inside. Here's the other side of that calendar, and I just folded this down and sewed a button on, glued on some, or sewed on some trim. Put this page in there from a craft book, and this is a divider card for a photo album box. And there's the back. More wallpaper here. So this one is needlepoint. I'll go through the other ones more quickly because they all have pretty much the same thing. They'll probably be in different orders, but here's the apron tie for this one. This one is Patchwork and Quilting. The cover is very bright. I use this bright green fabric for the spine, which I love. And buttons again. Some pom-poms and yo-yos and some bright yellow pom-poms. This is wallpaper here. I didn't put a pocket on this because I didn't want to cover up that house. But I do need to put This Book Belongs To somewhere. I'll put it in here somewhere. So, again, we have that with the Feedsack fabric. This is from that book about quilts, and I love, this is just what one of the quilters had to say, and I didn't cover it because you'll want to read it. It's just really fun. I want to show you this quilt, and if anybody asks you, I will sell some of these dirt cheap. I have 20 quilts here now, and I have given away about 30. Now this one here is like a puzzle. See, it has a star and a 9 patch, and I don't know what all. That's just part of it. It's just really cute. This is from, it has holes, so it went into a binder, and I got a bunch of these with no binder at a flea market, and I think it's from the 70s. It looks 70s to me. And here's a pattern for a little stuffed doll, and some vintage sheet, 2 pieces of vintage sheet here, and some trim, and this is from a children's book where the mama is baking. I tried to find images that went along with the domestic arts theme. Wallpaper. Some snaps. More sheet here. Again, the vintage pattern with cards inside. Feedsack fabric with a little booklet inside. Paper there to write on. There's a booklet in here. This is Feedsack fabric. Wallpaper. There's a little girl making cookies. This is that foundation paper for quilting. another ruffle from the sewing teacher here. Florist hang tag. Here's the apron pocket. There was a big lavender pocket that had stains on it, so I patched some Feedsack fabric over it. It's a crocheted bodysuit. Uh-oh. There we go. This is vintage embroidery that was matted, and it didn't have the frame in it, I don't think, when I got it. It had two pieces, and I cut it in half, and I included one in here as a tuck spot. And here's another one of those pretend Disney tickets, and it has a top 10 list on the back. This is a cut out of a K & Company Smash book. Piece of wallpaper here. I need to put a little tag in there. There's the other side of the lavender apron pocket. This is not a pocket, it's just two pieces of paper sewn together to make them big enough. And there's the envelope. I don't think there's anything else in there this time. And here's the page from, let's see, I want this going this way. The page from the doll making book. Paint chip, library pocket. There's an envelope here made from a craft book. Some more of that fringe. Yarn sample. Some cards in there. Cross-stitch fabric, the Aida cloth, and apple preserve labels. It's an envelope. This opens out. This is from the 1969 pattern book. Now, I made a mistake here. I made these two pages, they're the same, and I put them both in this book. And I noticed it after I had it stitched in, but before I had sewn the other book together. So I made another page and put it in the other book. So nobody is missing the page, but this book has a bonus page. So sorry about that. And there's something from the 1969 pattern book in this envelope. Looks like I have to put something in there. I'll put a page from that embroidery stitching book. Again, I guess I'll have to find it. It's not right here. But I don't want to forget. So I'm going to put this tag here to remind me to go back to that page. This is a little pocket I made with pictures from a pattern book, pattern catalog. These are both cut from, well, this is cut from a craft book, and this is wrapping paper. This is Feedsack fabric, the file Rolodex card, and embroidery transfer. And there's the vintage quilt. And there's the back. One more. I've got to be quick because my battery has been flashing and I don't know how long it's going to last. So this is rug making. This is fringe from a chenille bedspread. And this one has my Simplicity wrapping paper on it and a piece of wallpaper. It's pretty much the same, so I'm just going to flip through quickly. There's the apron pocket. It's gingham with a cross-stitched heart. That's the yarn card. My business card is in there. This is a piece of felted wool, I think. I got it in a flea market or at the yard sale or something. I cut a piece of it and put it on as a pocket, and there's Feedsack fabric there. This is a piece of very thin, maybe a lawn fabric, if that's what that's called, and it's got embroidery transfers ironed on and some embroidery done on it, but not finished, and threads were inside. You can see the red threads in there left long, and I didn't cut them off. I left them there so you can see them through the fabric. I thought it was pretty cool. Okay, this is something that, this is from that quilt book, and I think somebody just wrote down stuff that they heard the lady saying. Move over there, you old hens. Who's got my thread? Lord, she done put Dacron inside this outing quilt. Wear my fingers to the bone looking at it. I should have Diane Shaw reading this, right? Had your sure fine pickles today, Annie? This here's the mama of my son's wife. Those two kids made one mess of a house. When these pieces was put together, they kindly made a triple star. When you look at it this way, you can see a triple star. When you look at it that way, you see boxes. When I look at it anyway, I get dizzy. Mary Lou, you pieced one seasick quilt. So cute. This is the rest of that pleating tool packaging. Some snaps. There's a lot of vintage stuff in all of these books. There's some cards in there. Sorry, my Fitbit is clicking on my tripod again. Here's one of the quilters. These are really fun to make. And I hope that they'll be really fun to use. I still want to finish mine, but I guess mine's going to have to wait till after Christmas. This is an embroidery transfer of a poodle, and this is a sample of a curtain fabric. And there's the antique quilt. And there we have it, rug making. So those are the 3 domestic arts journals that I completed. And like I said, I will try to have more made before Christmas. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back sometime next week with more videos. Bye-bye.